welcome to Agatha Christie They Watched. This is Bill Peschel,
and I'm Teresa Peschel, and I saw what you did with the little slider in the theme music. Oh my God, we must look so professional.
We did right up to this moment, so now we are about 14 seconds in.
This is part of my charm.
That's part of your charm is our complete professionalism, but thank you all for showing up today.
Anyway.
And we are here to talk about The Mystery of the Blue Train. This is, actually, we don't need to do that. Let's go back here because it's The Mystery of the Blue Train. It is Agatha Christie's
eighth novel.
No. Eighth novel. It's referred to as sixth book in the Poirot series.
Okay, but it's the eighth novel,
right?
Because she did, and I can count them off. She did. Let me make sure my hand is being seen there. But she did Styles, and then Secret Adversary, and then
Links,
and then The Man in the Brown Suit, and then Chimneys, and then Roger Ackroyd, and then The Big Four, and now we're up to The Blue Train, and that is 8.
So
that is
8 novels, but it's the sixth Poirot novel. It's the sixth book in the Poirot series, according to Grok, which is never wrong. Well, let's say it's
okay.
Styles, Links,
Roger Ackroyd, The Big Four, and The Blue Train. So they're wrong.
So okay, that's
this is
interesting.
why we shouldn't rely on AI because or however Grok works, because people make mistakes.
Okay.
And it makes even more mistakes. So
well, it was published in 1928. And as you can see, we have different editions. That's there's that one. That's the 1928 cover on the left, the reprint. Really beautiful artwork there.
Of the train. Oh, beautiful
of the train.
Work.
And then there's the paperback version from later. That's 1956. And then I had to throw in this one just because it just
has nothing to do with the plot. But you can always count on a cheap paperback to do a racy, amazing cover. Do you remember that wonderful, racy, amazing cover for Murder on the Links where Poirot is peering into the scantily dressed acrobat's dressing room, and you think this has nothing to do with the plot,
and it wasn't in the store.
Sells books.
But it sells books. This is the audience they're aiming at. This is based off of a short story that she wrote earlier called The Plymouth Express in 1923. So she took that idea of a murder on a train and a jewel theft and expanded it for this 1928 version. And this is what she does.
And, well, yes, Agatha liked rewriting, reworking ideas, because if she had an idea and she came up later on, and as a writer myself, as Odessa Moon in science fiction romance, you come up with an idea and then you think, oh, I should have done it this way, or, oh, what would have happened if this happened, if a character did this or a character did that. And with Blue Train, Agatha had a real reason for revisiting a previous short story and expanding on it. And of course it is because this is the novel that she had to write under duress for her publisher, even as much as she was under duress to produce The Big Four. And she never was happy with this book, and she didn't care for people who said, oh, I love The Blue Train. And I do like The Blue Train. It's a really fun novel.
And, that says something about her attitude, because she wrote this in her autobiography, I believe, that she said when somebody comes up to her and says, I absolutely love The Blue Train, she thinks less of them. And Agatha doesn't normally tell you what she really thinks about somebody.
But she was so unhappy at this time period. But this is the book that proved to her, I am a professional writer. I can write under duress. I can write when I am uninspired. I can write when I feel absolutely miserable and I just want to, take to my bed and sip lots of tea and read other people's tawdry romance novels. I do not want to do this under any circumstances, but I have bills to pay and I am a professional, so I am going to write this damn book.
Right.
And she did.
Okay, now this particular version, this is the only adaptation of Blue Train we have. It came out in 2006 and stars Elliot Gould. And if you're a film fan and you know the 70s, he was a very big star then. He starred in MASH, and there was the Robert Altman A Long Goodbye. He reunited with Donald Sutherland for a movie called Spies, which didn't do very well. But
he was in MASH? I don't remember seeing him in MASH.
Yes, he and Donald Sutherland.
He was Donald
The
Sutherland wasn't in MASH.
movie.
Oh, the movie.
You're thinking of Alan Alda. This is not Alan Alda.
I never saw that movie. I saw the TV show. That was quite sufficient, and I enjoyed it.
I grew up playing my brother's record. I knew the record, and that's why I learned about Spear Chucker Jones and Hot Lips Houlihan. It was an excerpt from the movies, and there's things I can't say right now without being banned from YouTube as well. But it was for
Elliot Gould.
For somebody like 9 and 10 years old. This was like an amazing introduction to the outside world. So
Elliot Gould, fated movie star, has been returned to be seen again, like the Love Boat.
That's right. This was his episode of the Love Boat.
And for those of you who remember The Love Boat, which was a fun TV show and it introduced the miracle of cruising to a whole lot of people, they really loved starring as guest stars once former famous actors and actresses of the movies, because of course they were all people who had been big stars in the 30s and 40s, and so you get Dorothy Lamour on The Love Boat, or other stars like that, and it was a chance to be in front of the camera again and emote and do the whole 9 yards.
And everybody fawned over them, and it wasn't difficult work. It was like a week's work maybe, and you're done, and
you're back on stage again. Yeah. And so yes, the Poirot TV series,
Elliot Gould's Love Boat. These are the observations that you pay big money for, dear audience. So I hope you get your money's worth here. But also, what's interesting about this is that Elliot is a fan of the Poirot series.
Yes.
Is. He's still around. And he actually approached them and said, I love this series. Can you find a role for me? And he got cast in this as Rufus Van Alden, the American millionaire, robber baron. And I love this in particular. He makes this face frequently during the episode because he's having to deal with his wayward daughter, Ruth Kettering, for whom he bought the Heart of Fire gem.
And she is wearing the we'll use the scientific term and say a mega shit ton of rocks there, of ice. She has got on lots and lots of money worth of ice. But the ruby is unusual and unique because for those of you who know something about gemstones, the bigger and clearer the gemstone, the more valuable it becomes, because you can find lots and lots and lots of teensy diamonds and teensy rubies, and some of them are in pretty good quality too, but they're not great, big, knock your eyes out stones that you wear right here on your bosom, so everybody can say, oh my God, she's wearing a ruby the size of a pigeon egg. And the Heart of Fire is one of those rubies.
It has a reputation, and this is a trope in Golden Age mysteries, the gem with the fatal legend behind it, the jewelry with the fatal legend behind it. Nobody who wears this lives longer than a year, something like that.
Think of the Hope Diamond, which actually has a great history of tragedy associated with it. And now that it is, and once it was safely tucked away in the mineralogy unit of the Smithsonian, and it is totally worth seeing, because I'm saying this thing is like this big. It's fine now.
Yeah,
but it's also fine. It's adored by millions.
It's not just the gem itself, it's how it's cut, because I think the Hope Diamond was recut. So it was actually smaller than the original size, but because of the way it's cut and reflects the light, it's actually more valuable.
Yes, good gem cutting is it is an art as much as it is a science, and a really skilled gem cutter will remove valuable gem material until he has something that is perfect, perfectly beautiful, perfectly clear. It will reflect light from every single orientation. It will look fabulous, and it will always look great, and not like, say, my felt earrings.
Which we should point out, you're wearing something different every week. So this is felt maple leaves.
These are felt maple leaves, and of course they coordinate beautifully because they are, orange and olive drab, which are fall colors, but they are nothing like the Heart of Fire ruby or those fabulous drop diamond chandelier earrings that Ruth Kettering is also wearing, because by God, she wants to make sure that you know that she is incredibly rich and can afford the very best gems in the world.
Right. So Ruth right now is, and here's the setup. Ruth is married to Derek Kettering, who is a gambler and something of a wastrel.
And absolutely an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. James Darcy, who apparently has, I can't remember what else he's in, but he's also, this is an early role for him.
And this is one of the things that the movie really changed the novel. In the film, Ruth is largely what she was. She is incredibly spoiled. She is beautiful. She can have whatever she wants. She is the apple of Daddy's eye. She wanted to be married to Derek Kettering and become, Lady Kettering, or the Honorable Derek Kettering. Derek, I think, is a second son, and so he gets the honorable and not, he's not
the
Earl.
Title.
Yeah, he doesn't get the title, and she doesn't get the title either, but it allows her, the daughter of an American millionaire, entree into the British aristocracy. And neither of them got what they wanted. She got a drunken wastrel, and he got a spendthrift harridan. But she was really beautiful. And in the novel, he cheats on her and she cheats on him. But he's a more sympathetic character, and he really becomes deeply involved with Catherine Grey. And every single bit of that romantic subplot, and Agatha liked a romantic subplot, she really did. Every single bit of that subplot is gone away. Catherine and Derek Kettering have virtually no scenes together, and yet in the novel they kind of work together, and you know that he is going to go and find her after she goes back to this tiny village that is named St. Mary Mead, even though has nothing to do with Miss Marple. But and you notice what a small, tasteful necklace she's wearing, and if she has earrings on at all, they're just little tiny solitaires and not these massive chandeliers that Ruth wears. And so that entire story is gone. That is all dispensed with.
Now, this is a typical Catherine is your typical Agatha Christie heroine.
Yes,
she's
a classic ingenue.
Relatively young, although I think she's a little older now because she's been taking care of this old woman who has a lot of money.
She's in her late 20s. Let's say she's in her late 20s. So not past the bloom of youth and still able to bear children, which is important.
Right. And her old lady dies, and it turns out, to everyone's surprise,
including hers,
she left the money to Catherine.
Yes, Catherine expected to have to go out and find another role as a companion, an impecunious lifestyle, because she doesn't have the education and the training and the background and the connections to do anything other than either do factory work or, like Ursula Bourne, say, okay, I'm going to be a parlor maid.
Yeah. So now she is, she can do whatever she likes. She's deciding to go, and as a matter of fact, we have another Lady Tamplin.
Lady Rosalind Tamplin.
Who is a cousin of Catherine.
Even though they have very little contact with each other. And this is, of course, what happens when members of the family, particularly the daughters, they marry that handsome solicitor, that handsome rector, the handsome vicar, but there's no money. And so the members of the family who have money and connections tend not to pay attention.
They met her once. Lady Catherine introduces herself and says, we met once.
Yeah, and so Catherine has connections through Lady Tamplin, but she doesn't make any kind of a big deal of it, and she's never been able to take advantage of it. And you see this opening scene where Poirot sees her frozen. She's at a very fancy restaurant that Poirot, this is Catherine. Poirot sees Catherine frozen at a very fancy restaurant and party that Mr. Van Alden and Ruth Shoehorn forced him to attend. And she's, oh my God, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah,
the waiter is standing there with the bottle of wine, and she has no idea what to do.
She has a little bit of wine in her glass, and the waiter is expecting something, and she doesn't know what.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to do, and Poirot sees the damsel in distress and goes over to rescue her.
There's a long sequence of him picking up the wine and, looking at the bottle and saying, complimenting her on the vintage and doing the whole sniff thing and nodding to the waiter, and the waiter says, "Very good, sir." And then Poirot introduces himself to her, and they talk, and he decides he's going to play the avuncular uncle.
Yes,
to
the
her,
avuncular.
The avuncular uncle.
That's all he says, is the avuncular.
Yeah, the avuncular. She's going down to Nice at Lady Tamplin's invitation
And then Lady Tamplin shows up on the blue train.
Yeah, she shows up early. She doesn't wait for her to come down. She goes to Calais. She
Calais.
goes to
Yeah, they're in
Calais
Calais
and
where it is
meets
like
her on the
English
train.
weather. It's pouring down rain and is miserable and grim and gray. And then later on, you'll see the blue train move from Calais and around Paris where it is miserable and grim and raining. And then it comes out into the sun and it's so beautiful and it's so clear and warm and sunny. And you wonder why anybody would ever live anywhere else. Because it's just, why would anybody live in England when you could live in Nice?
That's right. Now, there's two other members of the cast we want to get into. There's Lady Templin's daughter, Lennox, who's the same age as Catherine, and she is absolutely delightful. She's bubbly, she's effervescent, and she tells Catherine, you know she wants your money, don't you?
Oh, and this is only again, Lennox, this is a big, complicated novel, and Lennox actually has considerably more scenes in the novel, and she is considerably more snarky about her mother and social climbing and everything else like this, because she knows her mother for what she is
and loves her
She
anyway.
loves her mother anyway. Her mother is a great deal of fun, but her mother is a social climber who married well, and each time she is married up the food chain, and she retained Lady Tamplin from somewhere along the line. And Corky, and I can't remember Corky's full name.
He doesn't have one in the script.
He does in the novel, and there is Corky,
the fourth husband.
The fourth husband, husband number 4, and Lady Tamplin's most favorite husband. But she did not want to change her name to become whatever Corky's name is, because then she would lose the lady title. But Corky is fun. It's interesting again in the novel. Corky is everything in the novel that Derek Kettering is not. Derek Kettering largely married Ruth because she was beautiful and he needed the money. And he resents being the kept man. Corky is delighted to be the kept man.
He's something like a Drones Club member, you know, because he says he literally admits, I don't have that much up here.
Yeah, he is a Drones Club member for you PG Woodhouse fans. There's no doubt. And the contrast, it's not so great here, but at the same time it does show, because Derek Kettering married Ruth Kettering because, well, he married her, and here he's still, in love with her, even though he tells Rufus von Alden that no, he does not cheat on Ruth, his wife, because he can't get it up and hasn't been able to get it up since he started drinking scotch for breakfast, which tells you, wow, an alcoholic too. And he is a failure, and he knows it. He doesn't accept. He refuses to work within his limitations. Whereas Corky is, again, a totally different personality, but he is bright and bubbly and effervescent. And by God, if Lady Tamplin wants him to amuse her, he'll do that and do it happily because it's fun.
Yeah,
and he's not a despairing alcoholic and card sharp and gambler. He's not. He recognizes, hey, I'm doing really well, and I'm going to make this lady really happy because I really love her. Yep. And I like her daughter, and we get along great, and, I could do a lot worse, and I'm not Derek Kettering, boy alcoholic, and, and problem gambler, and wallowing in the slough of despond.
Right. So,
and there's a third man in all of this, and that is Le Comte de la Roche.
Yep. And I don't think I have a picture of him.
I thought you got a picture of Le Comte de la Roche.
I did, but I worked so hard to get all this done in time. It turned out I didn't put it
have
in
a
there.
Picture of Le Comte.
I have a picture of him.
But he is the roue. He is seducing the card sharp. He is seducing Ruth because he recognizes jewelry, top-notch jewelry, and an idiot when he sees one, and he is going to take full advantage of Ruth. And in fact,
Ruth adores him.
Ruth adores him because, he's so much of a man and so romantic, and he pays so much attention to her. All of the things that if Derek Kettering had been a little bit more like Corky, then we wouldn't be having this problem, but we wouldn't have a movie then either.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Le Comte who introduces the false Heart of Fire, because there turns out that there are 2 stones, the glass one that Corky finds, and then the real one that appears at the end. And then there is a 4th man besides Rufus von Alden, and this is Rufus von Alden's personal assistant, secretary, dog's body, and general important person. And you see, there he is off to the side next to Rufus Alden, and he doesn't look like much. But there is a scene early on, and it's only when you see this movie the second time that you start realizing how much has been buried into the movie, things that I totally missed the first time around. And seeing it the second time around, I can say, oh, this is the foreshadowing. Oh, this is what they meant by this. And so there is a scene early on where Rufus is confronting Derek
Derek.
Kettering about being a wastrel and a gambler. And my daughter, I'm arranging the divorce now.
And if you agree to it, you get 100,000 pounds.
And he doesn't want that.
And Derek says no.
Yeah, he doesn't want that.
He does not want it. And he is snide and he's rude.
And then Rufus von Alden has kind of like
Nods.
waves to Knighton, and Knighton is like, it is like night and day. He turns from this Labrador retriever into a Rottweiler, just like that.
Yeah.
And when you first see it, you don't realize what you saw. But when you watch the movie the second time, because you know what happens, you realize this man is not what he appears to be. He is much, much more. And it's very subtle and very nice, but it shows you that Knighton can react just like that and do something vicious and brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is, besides of the ladies, there's another person, and that is the maid, and her name is Ada Mason, and she is Ruth Kettering's personal maid in charge of the jewelry and in charge of everything. And you see how necessary it is to have an absolutely trusting relationship with your maid, because there's a scene in the hotel after the fabulous all-night party where Mason takes the necklace off of Ruth in the hotel lobby and pockets it, because Ruth knows that Ada Mason, good, faithful lady's maid that she is going to take this zillion-dollar piece of jewelry that could be broken up and sold, and she's going to take it upstairs and put it in the strong box like a good, loyal lady's maid.
And they're going to take it with her on the train to Nice.
Yes, because she wants to show it off for Lecomte, even though she knows this is dumb, and she has learned from her father, and she parrots it, but she clearly doesn't know it. Don't bring anything with you that you don't want to lose.
Yep. And Mason comes in later at the party at the villa, at Lady Templin's villa. She's serving drinks, and she ends up spilling the drinks on
Knightley and
Catherine, and it causes a fuss, and she's weepy and, ineffectual.
But the point of this, and it took me 2 viewings, is Knighton falls in love with Catherine. He sees her, she sees him, she comes over because she sees him limping, and she's so kind and she's so polite and she's young and lovely. And
he fumbles in front of her in that charming Hugh Grant way,
yes,
that all the ladies fall for.
And she is something more. And Catherine has, if you want to do the 2 pictures side by side, Catherine Gray. I see her down there. You misspelled her name in the cast list, but that's okay, because nobody
knows until you told them. Thank you very much.
But you see Catherine, and then you see Ada the maid, the Mason, Ada Mason the maid, and she would look better with better grooming and so forth, but in the end she's never going to look as good as Catherine Gray. And I tell you, beauty trumps a lot. Beauty can trump brains, it can trump cleverness, it can trump, ruthless ambition, because you've got to have the charm to go with it.
And remember, we're going to be having some spoilers here, so be warned.
And so Ada Mason, she's serving at Lady Templin's villa, where she has strong-armed by basically refusing to hear the word no. Lady Templin does not hear the word no. That word does not exist in her vocabulary, and neither do any of its million synonyms. She doesn't hear that word. So everybody there, the day after Rufus von Alden's daughter has her face bashed in on the train, so disfigured you have to have a closed casket funeral, and there he is at a party, feeling, just absolutely overwhelmed and shocked and grief-stricken. And Lady Templin says, "You're going to come to my party so you feel better, and I'll feel better, and we're all going to feel better, and we're not going to talk about this because we'll all feel better, and I want you here, and I don't care what you want." So there he is. And Ada Mason gets roped in as one of the serving maids, and I didn't even see this the first time around. And the second time around, I'm watching this. Why does she spill the tray of drinks on Catherine Gray and Knighton? And it's to tell Knighton, hey, pay attention, stupid. And she's jealous.
Yeah. because this is the way he's looking at her. They have this lovely scene in which they're talking to each other briefly at the party, and it's very sweet, and you think, oh, they're going to get together, you know, in your typical Agatha Christie way, because he's the assistant. He's not, you know, he's on the same level as she is, and he's injured.
And he is not the drunk wastrel that Derek Kettering is in the film.
Yeah.
And in the novel, Derek Kettering is, you know, he can be a drunk and he can be a cheat and he can be a card sharp, but he is not this total sad sack loser. You know, this poor excuse for a man.
You have these subplots going on, you know, the potential of relationships, and Poirot is watching everything. And this is where you really get the impression, and this is borne out in the books as well, Poirot is a sneak. He is an eavesdropper. He's a curtain tugger. He'll listen to anybody. I mean, this is what good detectives do. And this is why they get such a bad reputation in a way. You have to intrude on people's privacy if you want to hear, if you want to learn.
And one of the things about this film is many of the films have actually, you know, a rather limited cast. But when you count down everybody who gets a serious set of scenes in this film where you really get a little bit of their personality, you have Catherine Grey, who is the main character in the novel, and she is not the main character here. And then you get Lady Tamplin, and then you get her daughter Lennox. And then you get Corky, the husband number 4 and the fun-loving one. And then you get Ruth Kettering, who gets murdered early on. And then you get her father, Rufus von Alden. And then you get her husband, Derek Kettering, who is, of course, you know, a loser, wastrel gambler. And then you get Knighton, the secretary and assistant. And then you get Ada Mason, the lady's maid. And then you get 2 people we have barely touched on, one of whom we haven't touched on at all, and that's Mirelle. And she is... and boy, is she a sharp dresser. My goodness. And there was a scene here with her that it took me a while to understand what was going on too. But she, as it turns out, in the novel, she is Derek Kettering's mistress. Here, she is Rufus von Alden's mistress. And you don't realize until you see this the second time around that she is in a lot of scenes, but she doesn't get to speak. And here she is wearing one of the best fitted ladies' suits I have ever seen. I don't know if you've got oh yes, you did get a full view of that suit. Look who is totally on point, totally on style, and look who needs a lady's maid to tell her how to dress.
Looks like she's wearing unironed pajamas.
Yes, that is not a really flattering outfit, you know, and she's pale and she's washed out. That's Catherine Grey again. And then you compare her to Mirelle. We are actually given her age. She is 40, and she looks incredible. And she is Rufus von Alden's mistress. And there's a scene, and if you go back, I think it's picture number 1.
Yeah.
There. Okay. This is her crashing into the party.
At the villa.
At the villa. And she basically bursts into tears and hugs Rufus von Alden, but it is not...
Slaps him. And
slaps
he
him
hugs her.
and he hugs her. And there's no real explanation for this. And maybe it's because Ruth was viciously murdered and this is her first chance to actually spend time with him. Or maybe it's because she discovered that the reason why Rufus van Alden can't marry her is because he's still married to someone else.
That's right.
And then we get yes, this is his wife Dolores, who is probably certifiably insane and a cutter, and she tried to smuggle baby Ruth to Argentina in a suitcase, which would have killed the baby. And
so you get all these backstories that are revealed.
And it's a huge amount of storytelling that all interweaves, and you will not see a lot of it until you see it the second time around. I mean, that's certainly what happened with me, because I didn't realize until we saw it for the second time how much Mirelle shows up in the background. The camera will linger on her for a moment.
And
Ada Mason, too. She shows up a lot. Or Le Comte de la Ruche.
Right. But also remember, Mirelle she shows up on the train talking to Derek.
No, she does not.
Yes, she does.
No, she does not. She first shows up.
Well, I'm not saying she first showed up. I'm saying later. I corrected myself.
Okay.
She shows up at the beginning.
She shows up at the beginning at the big
remember,
party.
in the book, she was the mistress of Derek.
Derek Kettering.
And when we see her on the train in close conversation with Derek, we're realizing, oh, this is still the same. And it turns out not to be the case, which explains why earlier, when Derek was threatened with, you either divorce my daughter and take this 100,000,
And I'll prove that you're an adulterer. And that's when he
and
says,
he said,
I can't be an
you can't
adulterer.
prove that I'm an adulterer, and that's the reason why. And it turns out, oh,
You always make me laugh.
yes, this is the jail scene where Derek's in jail and being questioned by Poirot and Inspector Caux, Caux, and that's when he talks about. He hints it in such a way. It was like this, like you said, the second time, or it took the second time around for me to realize, oh, that's what he's talking about. He can't perform anymore, so of course he doesn't need a mistress. Why bother?
Why bother? Why disappoint yet another woman?
Yeah.
Why put up with that humiliation?
Yeah. But
there's a lot in this movie when you consider that there is a traumatic bludgeoning, I mean vicious beating to death. The camera is very discreet. They don't show you her face. They don't show you anything particularly gruesome or awful. And yet it is a light, sparkling film. It is funny. It is wonderful scenes, and it's all, Lady Tamplin is fun to watch. Lennox and Corky, they are so fun, and yet they're floating above this sea of despair.
Mm-hmm.
And the despair of Rufus von Alden, his only daughter. Remember, he's still secretly married. He cannot remarry. He cannot father more children. He cannot have more children that he has a relationship with Ruth. He can't give Ruth brothers and sisters. And there's his daughter, his only daughter, his heir, beaten to death. And it's incredibly destructive to him, and then at the same time it's a fun movie, and it's really the jarring contrast is really interesting. The one thing I have to say about the jarring contrast that I did not like, and I didn't realize this again until I saw the film the second time, is that was one really jittery camera. And it's okay when they're on the train, but they were jittery sometimes, not filming clearly when they were not on the train. And there were some sequences where I'm thinking, you could focus the camera. It is possible to
This was one of those things. It was
prominent
at the time. It was traditional at the time. And again, what also, and this is what I liked about it, is this kind of a vacation quality. It's like when you're watching Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and it takes place in the south of France, and you get to
Nice
feel
is in
like
the south of France, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So yes, every time you see the south of France, you think, wow, this is so beautiful. This is so wonderful.
And how well they did the special effects here, because this train is not really in that landscape.
Look at those lavender fields. Look at that bridge. Oh my God, it's so gorgeous.
It is really lovely. And that train station, the train exists. Everything else around it is from something else. The fact they could put that together and make it work.
You better swing away because
we're done.
Okay.
We're done. I know.
we
we're trying not to get suspended, but I see we have you two, we got away with it this time. This other time is when they're driving to the villa, and this will be short again because I just wanted to show you this. They actually filmed in the south of France, which I guess is another reason why you want Elliot Gould there if you're paying him a lot of money. And they're driving to the villa. Poirot's in the car. The family is with them, and that's the villa they're staying in. Oh my God!
Look at that! How beautiful! Lady Tamplin owns this, and she can barely afford it. Mm-hmm. And that she's going to hit Catherine Grey up for money, and she admits it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to ask for a check, but I'm not going to murder her.
Even though she would inherit, but of course she's
maybe she would inherit.
They said she would because she hasn't made a will yet.
That's right. Catherine,
and she's the closest relative.
Okay, I can see that. Yes, because Catherine Grey, if Catherine Grey has no brothers or sisters, and she has no living parents, and she probably doesn't if she's a lady's companion, and she has no children of her own, then yes, the closest relative, the closest blood relative would be a first cousin, and so that would be Lady Tamplin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And but it's really enjoyable. It is not the novel.
Yeah.
It is not the novel. Vast swaths of the novel were jettisoned, including parts of it that probably should have been jettisoned anyway, because there's a lot of convoluted stuff at the beginning with international gem thieves and Bolsheviks, and then it all goes away because once Agatha used them in the opening chapter, she got rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things that I think is really, really interesting about this particular film is she really expanded on the trope of having the murder victim's face bashed in. And she uses this again and again in different films. Why do you bash someone's face in when, you could just hit them hard across the head and then cut their throat, which would be considerably less violent and less messy. And the reason why you disfigure someone's face is to make sure that you cannot identify them. And there is some falderall both in the book and in the film where Ruth traded compartments with Catherine because Ruth needed to be able to make her assignation with Le Comte de la Roche more easily, and Catherine didn't care. So why would Ruth be murdered? Well, because obviously you were trying to murder Catherine, and that's a red herring. But in the end, Poirot comes back, as he always does, to actual facts. And the fact is, when you bash someone's face in, it's because you don't want them to be identified. And why would you do that? Everybody knows this is Ruth Kettering. You know that if she's in the compartment, there was no secret of her trading compartments. Ada Mason knows, the train staff, the conductors who help move all her stuff, they all know. The conductor who brought her dinner to her, they know perfectly well who was in this compartment. And the answer finally becomes that when the conductor delivers her dinner at 10 o'clock,
that wasn't Ruth
Ruth
at the door.
Kettering, but he had to not see the real Ruth Kettering's face. Because, of course, trains are always swapping staff on and off because you cannot work 24/7. And so, you pull through you pull into Paris and you stop long enough to unload and unload passengers and their high-value freight, but you also change staff. And so Ruth Kettering was disfigured so that she could not be identified by the man who brought her dinner.
Well, not just brought her dinner, took her order.
Mm-hmm.
So he sees her twice and only twice, and he assumes that is Ruth Kettering.
Wearing her clothes, in her wig, he knows who she is.
Yes, and Poirot recognizes that the hair is from a wig and that there was somebody wearing a wig in the room, and why is that? And he draws the logical inference from it. Now, what Agatha always does is when she reuses a trope,
she changes it.
Because what you can do is, why do you bash the face in? So, because that's not the real person. She used that in Murder on the Link. She swapped bodies.
Yeah, and she did that in The Body in the Library.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, in The Body in the Library, nobody got their face bashed in, but you had a misidentification from a trusted person.
Right.
And when we saw Ms. Ma Nemesis, the victim, the child victim, had her face smashed in. And again, the reason was so that you could not identify. You had a trusted person do the identification, but they lied.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when you read her novels or you read anybody else's mystery novels, if somebody has their face smashed in to make identification a challenge, you should always ask yourself why.
But you may never come up with the same answer, because if you say, oh, I read this in Murder on the Links and applied it here, you'd be wrong.
You'd be wrong.
And this is why Agatha is a real genius at plotting. She doesn't simply use the tropes. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't.
Yeah, and it's...
You just don't know when.
You don't know when. And this is also a reminder that in Agatha Christie, anybody can be the victim and anybody can be the murderer, because you have Derek Kettering and you have Le Comte de la Roche set up as very easily the murderers. You could have, and she could have written this any number of ways. She could have really had Ruth Kettering murdered by accident, and Catherine Grey was the true victim, and it was Lady Tamplin, and who realized, couldn't talk her way out of it, and you end up just going nuts, and then you steal the Heart of Fire, and then you pretend you had nothing to do with it, and it could have gone that way too, because of the switched compartments.
It could have been Lady Tamplin with her husband, getting her husband to do the job as well. So you have all these possibilities.
And here you get this set of circumstances.
Now, I'll also add, at the end, Poirot is talking with Catherine, and Catherine decides that she's going to go travel, and she actually ends up says, I'm going to go on the Orient Express.
And
and you must have been on it a lot. And he says, no, I never have, but I should, which is a very nice touch.
And eventually he does go on the Orient Express.
Yeah, but the last scene is of him on the shore looking down at Lady
Happy, fun
Tamplin and
people.
people having a good time. A family, a real family, or a real happy family, and you get that sense of melancholy
That sense
that
of
she
loneliness.
that says loneliness. That is, you see Poirot as
Isolated.
isolated and alone, and he bears up under this. That's who he is, and that's his choice. That's who he accepts himself to be. And the end still doesn't deny that um, uh, our murder victim is still murdered. Rufus is still mourning. You have multiple deaths, but you have to think about it. Agatha doesn't rub your face in it. And that's why, in some ways, she doesn't get the proper reputation. She doesn't get the proper props.
She doesn't
She
wallow.
doesn't
She
wave
doesn't
it
get
away.
maudlin.
And the reader actually has to sit there and think about it to understand, yeah, this is still happening. And at the end, they're not all joking and laughing. It's a very melancholy end to a very good,
A very
very
fun
good
movie.
episode,
Yeah,
very fun movie.
and Lady Tamplin is one of those people. She is unaffected by the horrors that go around her.
Yeah.
She actually knew Knighton. You learn that she knew Knighton beforehand because during the war,
That's right.
she used her villa as a convalescent hospital for soldiers.
Yeah,
And
which was done.
this also plays a key role. But Lady Tamplin, she has her daughter. She has Corky. She is fine. They have.
They're broke still.
They're still broke, but you suspect that Catherine wrote them a nice check to say thank you for the hospitality, and that allows Lady Tamplin to stave off the wolves. And
For a
now
little
she's
bit
got
longer.
this fantastic story to dine out on for free for a long time to come.
Mm-hmm.
And they're happy, and they just live without it.
Yep, they live in the moment. So let's look at the book. We reviewed this in Agatha Christie She Watched, Teresa did. And what did you rate it as far as fidelity to text?
Too cautious, because they really changed a lot. Derek Kettering and Catherine Gray's story was totally rewritten. They are completely different characters. Lennox got actually as charming and funny and quirky and snarky as she is much more so in the novel. And there's the opening backstory, which was fortunately almost completely dispensed with after the opening 30 seconds, is
Cheers. I had coffee. She has throat coat.
Yes, throat
but
coat
tea works too.
Yes, throat coat with... Well, throat coat is tea. It's tea made of slippery elm and eucalyptus because it lubricates the throat.
Sure.
But she... a lot of characters were rewritten in that whole silly opening story about Bolsheviks and gem thieves. That all kind of like went away once Rufus von Alden walked away. And again, you got a quick bit of him as a dangerous man.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that was changed from the novel. These two things are really different animals, and that's why this is too cautious for fidelity to text. But for movie, as the quality of movie on its own, it's four cautious. The only thing I would have liked is a little bit more explanation of like Mirel's relationship with Rufus von Alden, a little bit more of... Well, especially Morel. I would have liked to have seen more of Morel. The actress was fabulous. She did an amazing job where most of the time you just had to see her reacting rather than getting a chance to explain herself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I'm bringing this point out is when movies are scripted and filmed, they have to fit them within frequently little time windows. Like this is 90 minutes, an hour and 34 minutes. So this is an hour and 34 minutes, and you don't have a lot of time. And you cannot guarantee that dopey audience members like me are going to watch it a second time. And when you watch it the second time, you can say, oh, I missed that sequence the first time around. It just...
Yeah, it has to be its own thing.
Yeah, and
there are some people who they would not like this because it's not faithful to the book. It should only be the book. But we became much more lenient about it. As long as it tells a good story, we can forgive a lot of things. And we do have, because we have the Poirot episodes, we have this huge body of works that's most of the time 95% faithful to the story. So we can accept deviations, and in some cases,
especially when the film works on its own
and still retains the spirit of Agatha Christie, which this one does. So, what are we going to watch next time?
We have now moved up to The Murder at the Vicarage. Yes, we're back on track because, of course, we had to do the break for 2 weeks where we watched the Seven Dials mystery, and the 1981 version is so much better. And then the Big Four, where Mark Gatiss did an amazing job, and the Blue Train. And now we are up to The Murder at the Vicarage, and we have three. This will take us 3 weeks to watch all 3 episodes. There is all 3 versions. There is a 4th version. And if any of you fans can find it's like 1974, a German film. If you can find it with English subtitles and send it to us, we would really like to see it. And if there's a hidden Estonian version, please let us know. But yes, we're going to do Joan Hickson, and then we're going to see, I can't remember now if it's Julia Mackenzie or Geraldine McEwen. And then we are going to see the Les Petites version, Le Prothero Affair, L'Affaire Prothero. And, well, the French do what they do. And it has definite moments of amazement.
Geraldine McEwen.
So We'll see you next week. Get out your Joan Hickson collection and watch Murder at the Vicarage.
And we'll talk about it next Thursday on... What do we do? We're Agatha Christie They Watched.
That's right. Right.
We are Agatha Christie
They Watched.
Thank you very much. And Kissy?
Oh, yes. Oh.
Mwah. And bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
So let's see. And